Hey, so I thought some of you that do video would be interested to see what settings I use to export the MacMost video tutorials. So I use ScreenFlow. I've been using that for a long time, and you go to File, Export. So when I'm completely done with the video, this is what I do. I go to File, Export, or Command E, and I actually have two different settings. I export two different videos. So I'm going to show you first the one called MacMost YouTube. It's nice that they've got these presets here, so it remembers everything. So I switched to MacMost YouTube, and I switched to the resolution of 1920 by 1080, so 1080p. And that size is the main thing there for YouTube. In addition, here's all my settings. Now the thing is, so for YouTube you want to provide the highest quality that's reasonable, because YouTube processes the video anyway. It's not showing the video that you uploaded, it's processing it, and you want to give it as good a quality video as you can so it can process it and look good. So why not produce, sky's the limit kind of thing. But then you have a huge file that's hard to upload, and also for archiving, I like to just keep this nice copy of the video around. If it's a gigabyte, then that's going to be a pain. So I want to be reasonable. I'll do 30 frames a second, 1800 kilobits a second, which doesn't sound that great if you know video, but remember this is screen capture, so a lot of the pixels are staying the same frame to frame to frame because it's just what's on the screen. Only my head there is all that's the real actual video going on. So if this was like real video, if I was doing like outdoor sports videos, I'd definitely be doing higher than that. But 1800 actually looks really good. I got this number just by basically experimenting up and down and seeing what's kind of made sense. If I go a little higher than this, it doesn't make much difference. If I go a lot higher, it makes a little bit of difference, but I end up with a huge file size. Multipass, because might as well. It takes a little longer to make a higher quality video, but not that much longer. So might as well do that. Automatic keyframes and audio, AAC audio with a good data rate of 256 kilobits per second. Might as well do stereo, even though my voice is from one source, so it doesn't really matter. But that's what I use for H.264 video to export for YouTube. For the podcast, it's a very different story. First thing I do is I switch to 720p, which saves a lot of space. It's going to be a much smaller file. And then you can see here I'm doing 450 kilobits a second, way down, but not so bad considering it's a 720p now, so less pixels for it to handle. Single pass, so it's just fast. And I experimented. Multipass didn't seem to increase that much at this range, but maybe I should play around with that more. 96 kilobits a second and force into mono to save space. So a much smaller file. Why is the podcast a smaller file? Well, the podcast is hosted. Actually, that file is the file that you get if you're watching the podcast. And I have to put that on my server because the way podcasts work is it just downloads this file. So I can't use the YouTube stuff, right? There's no file there available to download. There used to be some services that hosted podcast video, but most of them are gone. Tons of them host podcast audio, but podcast video is not so simple. A lot more bandwidth for them, and so I host it on one of my servers. And if I make them large files, well, they're slower to download. It's one thing, but also it actually costs me money. It costs me somewhere around 20 to 50 bucks a month to host the podcast video. That's with all this, with these files being nice and small. I limit, I think, only 20 or 30 videos are in the podcast feed, the most recent ones. All that limitation, I still pay 20 to 50 bucks. If I made the videos nice, high quality, I'd be looking at spending more than 100 bucks a month easy on podcast hosting. And if I had all the videos there, like you can go to 1800 videos, it's so easy in a podcatcher to say, yeah, download all of these. And then you would just basically, by yourself, you'd cost me like 100 bucks or something. Maybe not that much, but it was a problem actually when I had a lot of videos. I think when I originally got to like 300-400 videos years ago, I did notice that my bandwidth bill was getting kind of high, and I looked, and there were people that were just downloading them all. And I'm sure they didn't watch them all. I definitely love if somebody wants to watch all my videos, but at the website they're all YouTube. Bandwidth doesn't cost me anything, and it's higher quality, so it could be done there. So that's why I've got two different versions there, and it's really quick and easy in ScreenFlow to switch this, and then I do a different file name for each one. So I can have them both and hit export, and I get only 2 versions to upload.